Hi, this is James Van Praagh. Thank you very much for joining me for another installment of Ask JVP, where I answer a lot of your questions, your inquiries about my line of work, about spirituality, about mediumship, and so forth. This next question I find very interesting. I'm asked this quite a bit. So the question is from Jonathan from Eagle Rock, California. And Jonathan asked me, what is the first message you ever gave somebody? And how did you know it was real? Good one. Well, the very first one that I gave somebody, of course, was very weird, very strange. I was working at the time at Paramount Studios, and I was a contract coordinator for some syndicated programs, just preparing contracts. And I remember that it was after lunch, and I was in a cubicle, and my coworker came into her cubicle next to mine. And as she walked into her cubicle, there was a lady standing behind her. I saw this lady very, very clearly. She was very, very solid, and she had reddish brown hair, and I remember the dress she was wearing. It was a printed dress. I remember her face very, very well. And I remember as I'm sitting in my cubicle and I see this lady, I'm kind of freaked out. But I was more freaked out when this lady, this spirit, turned right to me, and she sent me a thought telepathically. And she said, "This is my granddaughter. I need for you to get a message to her. I need to talk to her." And I'm like totally freaked out. I started listening to this lady telepathically to what she was saying. And I then turned to my coworker and I said, "Would you mind if I give you this message from this lady? Would this make sense to you?" And this girl said, "Yeah." I said, "This might sound weird, but there's a lady behind you, and she's talking about the state of Idaho, and she shows me a white house with yellow shutters and windows. She's talking about doing needlepoint and making a footstool." And the girl kind of freaked also. She turned white and she said, wow, that's my grandmother. I used to spend every summer with her in her house in Idaho, and that was how her house looked. And she taught me how to do needlepoint, and we made a footstool cover together." And she said, it was during that needlepoint time that my grandmother looked at me and we talked about death and life after death. And she was a religious lady, but she said to me, "If I can come through to you after I die and let you know I'm alive and I love you, I'll do everything I can to make that happen." So that was kind of an agreement that they had. And this was her way of coming through. My life had changed since that. There's no way I could go back to a normal life with that perspective. So that was my very, very first message. And after that, I quit Paramount Studios because I realized that the information, that the awareness, the energy, this power of love that came through me to bring that message to her loved one was so strong that there was nothing on this earth that could match it. So I gave up the 9-to-5 job to work with spirit, not knowing what income I would have, not knowing how I would make ends meet. But I knew that that work was so strong and that spirit would guide me along the way. And they've done just that. So I send you my blessings and the spirit light to you. And that was a great question, Jonathan. Thank you for asking that. And I encourage all of you also to follow me on Facebook and Twitter, ask your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So thank you, and I'll see you next time on Ask JVP.